today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. A night of caring for cuts in the corner of Amanda Serrano. In boxing, the spotlight often shines on the action, but for Mike Bazzell, it's the unseen battle in the corner that matters most. His partnership with the fighter as he works to keep them in the fight. 2 weeks ago at the AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, Bazzell found himself on the front lines as Amanda Serrano's cutman during her rematch with Katie Taylor. Despite Serrano's gritty effort, Taylor emerged victorious by UD. The fight made history as the most watched women's boxing event ever. But for Bazzell, the real work started well before the final bell. First, I couldn't see a thing, Bazzell recalled about the corner. The LED screens on the corner pads were 3 times the size of the normal ones. He sat awaiting as Serrano's brother-in-law and trainer, Jordan Maldonado, and sister Cindy watched the action from the side of the ring. Moments later, Bazzell heard it. Cindy spotted something he couldn't. She's cut! Armed with adrenaline and Vaseline, Bazzell knew it was time to go to work. The contrasting styles of the southpaw Serrano and the orthodox Taylor made for a physical bout, and Serrano indeed suffered a cut above her eye, in one of the worst possible places.
Really was one of the more ghastly, meaty cuts I've seen in recent memory. Right there, smack dab on the eyelid, in one of the worst possible places, because every time Serrano blinks, that thing's gonna sting.
Headbutts were gonna be an issue, Bazzell said. To make matters worse, Bazzell had to navigate the quirks of the Texas Commission. We couldn't use Ziploc ice bags, which are colder and better for the fighter. Instead, we had to use screw-top bags, which just couldn't cut it, he said. Bazzell often returns to a gym adage, it's me and the fighter working together. As headbutts from Taylor took their toll, Serrano suffered an ear injury and a cut that kept reopening. While Bazzell's work was witnessed by millions, he remained focused on keeping Serrano in the fight, which he did.
Not only did he keep her in the fight, at the end of it, I felt Serrano won, especially with Katie being given a point deduction. I thought that sealed it for Amanda.
By the end, the cut was drooping like a drape, he said, adding that the doctor was impressed by his efforts but reminding him, I won't stop this unless Amanda can't continue. Anyone who knows Serrano knows that wasn't a concern. She would fight until the end, as she has done countless times, dug deep, outlanding Taylor in the championship rounds, according to CompuBox. But Bazzell believes the final decision didn't reflect the true nature of the fight.
A lot of people don't. Like I said, I thought Amanda won. I picked Katie Taylor to win the first one, and I think she did, by the skin of her teeth. And the second one, I went with Amanda, and as far as I'm concerned, Amanda should have had her hand raised.
Not sure why she didn't. In spite of that, there are talks for a third fight. There are talks for a trilogy in spite of Taylor being 2-0 in the saga so far. If Amanda wins one of those last rounds, she wins the fight, Bazzell said. Though Taylor lost a point, Bazzell argued that another point could have been deducted. If the referee had taken a point from Taylor for the headbutts, which were clearly affecting Amanda, it could have been a draw.
There was a lot of talk afterwards as to whether or not those head clashes are intentional. Are they in fact headbutts? Because it's consistent in Katie Taylor's fights that there are head clashes, whether it's with southpaws like Amanda or orthodox fighters like Chantel Cameron.
I've seen every single one of Katie Taylor's fights in the paid ranks as a pro, and head clashes do happen with some regularity. Now, it could be that because Katie Taylor has a tendency to lead with her face, lean forward while she's stringing combinations, that's why that keeps happening. Or could just be dirty boxing.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Though the loss stings, it sets the stage for a potential trilogy between two of boxing's greatest. It's bittersweet, Bazzell said, but if they fight again, I know Amanda's gonna be ready. She's a warrior.
And the picture of grace, that even though the judges scored the fight to Katie Taylor, once again, she handled it well, handled it like a champion. That's what makes her such a great ambassador for the sport.
Complimenting Mike Bazzell's efforts, Amanda said, he's a beast. He got paid real good from me for making me feel like I wasn't cut. FYI, he's also the best hand rapper in the game. For real, for real. Beat out everyone that's ever rapped my hands before.
So there's a lot riding on a trilogy between Amanda and Katie, because it doesn't just affect them. It affects the other fighters at or around these weights.
Quite literally, every fighter in between 126 and 140 pounds, because you figure if Katie's gonna fight Amanda for a third time, she's gotta drop those titles she holds at 135.
Something similar applies to Amanda. At least that's what Sky Nicholson's been saying, that if she's gonna fight Katie again, she needs to drop those 2 belts she holds at 126.
And what about the belts at 140? Katie Taylor has yet to satisfy a mandatory for any of those alphabet titles she holds at 140 pounds. If she's fighting Amanda again voluntarily, is that going to cost her one or some of those alphabet titles? At what point does a mandate come down from the alphabets?
Questions that need answers. A trilogy between them doesn't just affect them.
See if they can do it, because Netflix bankrolled this fight, you understand? They put up a lot of money to ensure they get the rights to the second fight. Who pays for the third? Will it be Netflix again? Or can Matchroom and MVP do a deal amongst themselves? Will it be for the same money?
Questions that need answers.
You see, that wasn't just the most watched women's boxing match. That was also the best advertisement for it. If you want to sell it, this is a great example.
These girls can put on a show. Just give them the stage and pay them.
They'll take care of the rest. That was non-stop action from start to finish.
See if they do the trilogy.
Congratulations to both. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, as part of Oscar's Clapback Thursday segment, he brought up what's supposed to be a relationship, a rumored relationship between Eddie Hearn and Sky Nicholson. I'm sure that most of you have heard the rumors by now, as they've been around for some time, but I'll tell you that
that's just malicious.
There are professional rivalries between contemporaries, and then there is this, which is personal. This is a personal attack on not just Eddie Hearn, but Sky Nicholson and her public image. And so what if they are doing something?
You will find that a lot, if not most, relationships form in either someone's school or someone's work, as that gives a suitor not only a chance to see a person with some regularity, but notice what they like and subsequently act upon it. These fixed environments.
So if at any point, whilst in each other's company, Eddie Hearn and Sky Nicholson decided they wanted to bump uglies, it's really nobody's business and it's perfectly normal. They are consenting adults.
And Sky's not some 19 or 20-year-old tart fresh out of high school going into college. She's 29. She's coming up on 30. She's a grown woman.
Even though she doesn't look it, she doesn't look like she's coming up on 30 because she takes care of herself and she's in fantastic shape. Let's be honest. She's an attractive young lady.
And if she's attractive to me and you, I'm sure she's attractive to Eddie, and maybe Eddie's attractive to her.
Thus, he stuck his cracker in her Vegemite. Who really knows, but who really cares? I suppose that the most concern and the most risk would have to be on Eddie Hearn's end of it. He's the one who has everything to lose, depending on how this relationship formed and how it ended, if it did end. But still, that's none of Oscar's business, and that's pretty tame compared to the stuff that he's been associated with. An extramarital affair compared to Oscar's cocaine binges and cross-dressing in the company of prostitutes.
Whilst being blackmailed by Russian mobsters as a result?
Suddenly, the idea that Eddie is having an extramarital affair seems pretty tame compared to the stuff that Oscar's been known for doing. You know, the girl that he's running around with now, that's not the mother of his children, at least not the one from years ago, and the story is he cheated on her. So why should Eddie Hearn be ashamed if he's getting some side action? We don't even know the state of that man's marriage. Maybe that marriage is on the outs. Maybe it's been on the outs for some time. Behind closed doors, we don't know what's going on in people's personal relationships. That Oscar should use that as a means to attack Eddie Hearn. Yeah, this is more than a professional rivalry.
That's just malicious.
That video from Oscar has since been taken down, likely because he came to his senses and realized it's not just Eddie Hearn you're affecting with this stuff. It's Sky Nicholson too, as a woman, as an athlete.
What did she ever do to you?
You're not a little kid that's free to shoot off at the mouth without any kind of accountability. Oscar's what, in his 50s? This affects her public image too, what you're implying, and you would be wise to keep her out of it.
Once again, Oscar is talking about things when he's in no position to talk, when he's in no position to point fingers in any way.
Then why does he do it? Because he's frustrated. He's frustrated at his own situation involving his own promotional company, everything that's going on, and this is a coping mechanism. I've said it before. These Clapback Thursday segments allow Oscar to vent some frustration, pent-up frustration, by taking it out on the people that he doesn't like. It feels like what he wants to do is bring everybody down to his level. For all of his shortcomings as a promoter, he wants to show that Eddie's the same thing. He's the same way. Like he's trying to destroy Eddie Hearns' image, public perception of him. And I feel like he's crossed the line this time. He's gone too far. So I don't know what happens now. I don't know if some legal action can be taken, slander, libel, anything along those lines. I'm not sure, but I know you can't run around saying stuff like this publicly, and so does he, which is why the video got taken down. Oscar either has no situational awareness, or he's just been humiliated so many times, he can't be shamed for what he's doing. He has no shame.
What did I say? What do I say all the time? Americans are too comfortable being ridiculous. Far too comfortable.
Since when was getting a little bit of side action outside of the home for shame?
This guy's got nice legs, long legs.
So maybe she sits on Eddie's face, or maybe there's nothing going on and it's all speculation, it's all rumors. Maybe it was a relationship that formed some months ago but is not ongoing. One way or another, it's nobody's business. Oscar's least of all. You have other things to worry about, Oscar.
That you needn't concern yourself with Eddie Hearns' marriage or his sex life.
Get it together, Oscar. And finally, UCAD have confirmed that they will not be appealing the NADP's decision to dismiss the charge against Conor Benn. Benn now fully in the clear over his positive drug test from 2022 and free to fight again unless WADA appeals.
Which they likely won't because enough time has passed.
But you will find that even though Conor Benn has been officially cleared, he's gone through all the proper channels that everybody wanted him to go through. He's been under a microscope for 2 years now. There will still be those holding to their narratives,
so to speak.
Anti-doping watchdog Victor Conte is a prime example. Conor Benn says he's ready for WBC welterweight champion Mario Barrios. The question for Conor and Eddie Hearn is, are they ready for random drug testing? Does Conor Benn have a boxing license? What is the latest from UK anti-doping and the BBBOC?
We know what the latest is. He's off the hook.
And their needed blessings, we have heard. The right around the corner hyperbole from Conor and Eddie for 2 years now. Conor has had 2 fights with mediocre opponents and looked average.
As opposed to William Zepeda, who looked above average, but wasn't tested like Conor was tested.
I hope Conor will prove that he is a clean boxer by doing random drug testing during training camp for his next fight. Conor could become a leader of boxing's anti-doping movement if he would enroll in a 24/7, 365 random testing program.
Get a load of him.
It's not even a gender. People are so stubborn that after he's won 3 cases, the most telling, the National Anti-Doping Panel, this is like the one that everybody told him to go through the process of. He won. He's fully cleared. I heard Simon Jordan say, yeah, but is he fully cleared? Yes. What do you mean, is he fully cleared? No ban, no fine, fully cleared. What? Oh yeah, but was it about juice? No, I'm telling you, no. So at what point do you have to turn around and go, fair play, you've done all that and you won? Because if it's a court of law and you go through 3 hearings and win every one of them, at what point do you have to turn around and go, well, maybe this guy's innocent?
What isn't being said is that before Victor Conte and so many others like him made it their mission to scrutinize Conor Benn, anti-doping testing was already being implemented, all without you guys riding their ass.
You say that Conor Benn looked bang average in his last 2 fights ever since all of this started, but you failed to mention that those 2 fights were at a higher weight. Those 2 fights were at junior middleweight, so if it looks like he's not punching as hard, maybe that's why. He's fighting at a higher weight.
And for constantly talking about how he looked bang average in his last 2 fights, let's talk about the guy who's looked above average, setting records with his output, William Zepeda, who wasn't tested in his last fight. So far, this is the second post I've seen Victor Conte make about Conor Benn's case that is now open and shut. He's been cleared, he can fight, but he doesn't seem to have the same level of interest in William Zepeda and Golden Boy, and how no anti-doping testing was conducted for his fight with Tevin Farmer. I would think that's more important. I would think that's a more pressing matter than beating the same old drum.
Beating a dead horse about Conor Benn. Aren't you tired yet? It's been 2 years.
Why doesn't Victor Conte keep the same energy for a Golden Boy Promotions fighter that he keeps for a Matchroom fighter? And I said it before, it's likely because Matchroom spends more money on anti-doping testing than any other promotional outfit in the business. You would sooner squeeze blood out of a grape from Matchroom than you would from Golden Boy. Golden Boy don't care about you, don't care about your questions.
Not that you're asking very many of them, because you're not. You're more focused on Matchroom.
Victor acts like he's doing something, asking all these rhetorical questions as if he is someone that Matchroom or Eddie Hearn or Conor Benn have to answer to, when he isn't.
Not that Matchroom or Eddie Hearn or Conor Benn ever needed you to remind them to implement anti-doping testing. That's how we got here in the first place, because they do it more than anybody, all without you hounding them about something they're gonna do anyway.
That's what makes it annoying for me, that there are other promotional outfits you could lend this attention to, and you willfully don't. You choose not to.
Because they'd slam the door in your face and tell you to hit the bricks.
Who do you think you are that you're asking them to provide you with assurances that they're gonna use VADA for Conor's next fight?
For the Barrios fight, which hasn't even been made yet, hasn't even been announced, yet here you are.
Why don't you keep this same energy for the PBC's Alberto Puello, for example? He got popped, they found a banned substance in his system. Why aren't you asking if there's gonna be anti-doping testing in the upcoming Sandor Martin fight?
Why don't you scrutinize the PBC as much as you scrutinize Matchroom over something they're doing already?
Why aren't you asking if someone is conducting anti-doping testing on Ryan Garcia throughout the length of his suspension? Because I've heard nothing about that.
He wasn't cleared, like Conor Benn was cleared.
It just seems useless to me to constantly hound Matchroom for something they're already doing without you having to ask them, not that you're someone that needs to ask them.
You said that already. What's your point?
That this isn't about cleaning up the sport of boxing so much as keeping a steady flow of cash running through VADA, his buddies at VADA.
It's a racket.
You should be putting pressure on the people that don't use VADA as much as Matchroom uses VADA.